Hey guys, your grumpy sound guy here, Mr. J.R. Everhart from COP Audio and Staging. Hey, listen, today we're going to dive into a conversation about dealing with guest sound engineers on your rig. And we're going to look at it from both sides. We're going to look at it from the guest sound engineer's perspective, and we're going to look at it from the contractor's perspective, the vendor's perspective that is actually providing the sound system for the guest sound engineer. This is a hot subject. I promise you we're going to ruffle feathers in this one because I have some very strong opinions about this. And this whole conversation was spawned by one of my followers asking me to talk about it after having dealing with a guest sound engineer that destroyed some of his gear. And I've had some of that happen in my world recently too. So we're going to touch on all those uncomfortable places today. So you do not want to miss a second of today's show. Hey guys, if I could just have a moment of your time to talk to you about this channel. 49.8% of you guys watching this right now is not subscribed to this channel. Will you please hit that subscription button? It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel on the public side here. And then that gives us tools and resources and for my marketing team to be able to do what we need to do to get this content out to people who really enjoy this sort of thing. The other thing is, if you're super digging this and you'd like a deeper look into my world, then subscribe to the paid side of the YouTube channel. You can join for about the cost of a cup of coffee a month, and then I do vlogs over there. I post content that never goes public, and I let you into my world. I let you into the COP audio world, and I let you see what our day-to-day life looks like. Love you guys. Thank you for the support. Welcome back. Welcome back. So yeah, guest sound engineers. Jeez, man, I don't even know where to start from this. So let's start from the contractor side, or let's say the house sound engineer side, who's in charge of the house sound system and having to deal with the guest sound guy and all that kind of stuff. We'll get into all of the sound guy's perspective later in the video, but I want to really uncover a bunch of bull butter right out of the freaking gate, When I was a house sound guy, I was very adamant about, keeping people from destroying the system, especially the monitor system and stuff like that, because we mix monitors from front of house, and some guys just keep giving the artist more and more monitor till you're blowing monitors up. I cannot tell you how many times that has happened. In fact, on the other side of the camera, I'm looking at a monitor right now that I have to replace a 12-inch driver in, probably after I get done doing this video, from a drummer from a band who was asking for way more kick drum in his wedge than what the wedge was able to support, and it ended up burning a driver out of it. Now, that drummer finished his set, got up, went about his life, laughing and smiling, skipping through the daisies, happy they had a good show. They were very happy with what we provided and all that kind of stuff. And now I'm the guy standing here holding the bag with a busted monitor that costed me, the driver was $160 to replace. That comes out of my pocket. I try to build some of this stuff into the price of the gig. This was at a bigger festival kind of setup. So how about that? What do we do? At Camden Yards, I've had issues with guest sound engineers coming in and blowing my gear up. And to add insult to injury, some of these guys think that it's absolutely hilarious. Like it somehow validates them as some great sound engineer because they blew somebody's gear up. One guy said, "Oh man, make sure you tell the repair tech that it was me that did it." Ha 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 ha. And I'm like, yeah, dude, and I'm the guy who has spent a little over $2,000 in rebuilding speakers in the last 2 years at that concert series because of guest sound engineers. I don't know what goes through these guys' minds. Why can't you look at the rig and see, okay, this rig is only good for a certain amount of SPL, instead of trying to mix it as if you were mixing a D&B rig or an L Acoustics rig or a big line array. This is a point source rig we're talking about. And then my follower that messaged me yesterday about his situation, he's pretty sure that the guest engineer destroyed 5 or 6 of his monitor wedges. He has active powered monitor wedges, and they just come in like a bulldozer and mow over your stuff and then walk away and could give a rip less what it cost you. So the question is, and the question my follower was asking me, is how do we deal with this? What can we put in place to solve this issue? Well, in my opinion, my humble opinion, there's only two avenues you can go down. One, you either stand there and you pull the system down, as he's trying to mix it, and if he has an issue with that, well, then you have a confrontation that you have to deal with. That's your first line of defense, and what I see most guys doing. The second line of defense is to build into your contract that if there's any guest sound engineers on your system, they are liable for any failure that happens. No guest sound engineer is going to be super happy with that because he doesn't know the system. It's not his system, and maybe it was going to fail before he got to it anyways. So that's going to be a hard sell. And I guess if you wanted to add a third option, it was you just stand there and watch them blow your stuff up. Under the guise of trying to keep people happy and, keep the vendor happy or keep the client happy, and that sort of thing. Because there's nothing worse than you giving everything that you can give to the band and the guest sound engineer, and then because you had to draw some boundaries and trying to save and salvage your gear, the band and the guest sound engineer goes to your client and tells you how much of a loser you are and how, they will never work with you again and blah, blah, blah. And now you just lost the gig. Any kind of repeat business you're going to get from that. Plus, they will, not even knowing the parameters of the situation, will probably go and tell other people in the industry that you're hard to work with and you don't want to give the band what they need and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So the short answer is it's complicated, okay? It's hard. I know guys that run all their mixes through the matrix first, then to left, right, out. So they can set back with an iPad or something while the guy's mixing and pull down front of house in the matrix, and they won't necessarily notice that as much as they would if left, right was coming down. But then when you're in monitor, world, if you're running monitors from front of house, like many of us middle market people do, you're not on stage to really hear how loud the monitors are getting. I've kind of gotten to a place with my systems to where I know once the gain levels reach a certain place, it should be screaming at them. It really should. And I have even gotten up and walked up on stage and heard the wedge to make sure that we're not, blowing wedges up trying to make these people happy. The other thing that drives me bonkers in that situation are people who have earplugs in. They got 30 dB cut, memory foam earplugs in their ears, and asking you for 120 dB of monitor because of that. I will look them right in the face and say, pull your damn earplugs out of your ears and maybe you'll hear it. If the stage volume is too loud, tell your band to turn down. Okay? That's what it needs to be. You ain't blowing my stuff up because you're too stupid to know how this is supposed to work. If your band's too loud on stage, fix that problem first, and then we'll talk about your monitors, okay? But I digress. So, you just try to navigate it the best you can. You try to be nice to the engineer. Hey, man, I think we're kind of hitting the ceiling with front of house, or we're hitting the ceiling with the monitors. I really don't want to have to repair anything after your set. Can we turn it down some? Can you work with me here? I know a bunch of guys that are totally cool with that. And then I know some guys that have so much ego, they cannot handle anybody telling them anything, how to do anything at all, ever, anywhere, ever, anything. Ever. Yeah, those are the guys that are challenging. I am putting some protocol in place on some of my events where I'm just putting my foot down and saying no guest sound engineers, because they don't understand the parameters of the event. They don't understand the power restrictions. They don't understand the system, obviously, because they keep blowing stuff up. I'm talking about guys that are repeat offenders here, you know? Yeah, all the things. And that is my argument about that. It's like all they do is add stress and chaos. There's one guy, every time I work with this dude, before he even says 5 minutes worth of conversation, he's already bringing stress to the table. I don't know how the guy even stays busy, but I guess he's got a strong enough reputation that people keep calling him because he stays busy. He's very busy. But the dude just gets worked up over the least little thing. Like, dude, calm down, okay? We're all on the same team here, you know? I want you to have all the tools you feel like you need to do this event. I have provided those for you. Can you not abuse the privilege and not blow my stuff up? I mean, please. And at that point, if they still refuse to comply, well, then I just have to be a jerk. And I'm someone who never runs from conflict. So that's not so. I'm a fighter, you know. So that's not something that is going to ruffle my feathers too awful much. I'm just going to tell you straight up, like, look, dude, turn it down or leave. Okay, that's where we're at. You know, when I was a house guy, there were times where I pushed guys out of the way and took over the mix. Granted, that has only happened a couple times, but you're not going to sit here and blow my stuff up. I'm not going to sit here and allow you to stroke whatever volume ego you think you have and destroy equipment that doesn't belong to you. And then, like I said, I had guys that were laughing and proud of the fact that they blew my gear up. Like, in what world is that okay? Can we get, especially in this world where everyone's volume conscious, you know, can we get past this whole idea that if you ain't redlining, you ain't headlining, bull butter, and just mix for the environment, mix for the system? You know, when I'm a guest sound engineer, let me flip the script now. When I'm a guest sound engineer and I'm walking in on a system, I try to use it within the parameters that I know the system was designed to be used in. I don't push it beyond that. You know, my ears are very sensitive to, you know, drivers being overdriven, you know, and really sensitive to, you know, sonic distortion and that sort of thing. I always want the mix to feel organic and to move around and to, you know, really take the chaos from the stage and turn it into art. Not once have I ever blown up anything on anybody else's system. And if a guy comes to me and say, hey man, I think we're kind of hitting the ceiling, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, man, no problem. Tell me where the comfort zone, it's your system. You know it better than I do. Tell me where the comfort zone is here, and I'll ride inside the comfort zone. I don't have any problem, you know, doing that. But I also don't struggle with a bunch of ego. It just kind of is what it is, man, you know? But gear is way, way, way too expensive, you know, for guys just to be coming in with a big, fat, arrogant attitude and acting like, you know, they're going to show me how to use my own system. No, you're really not, because no one knows my systems better than me. And anybody who thinks that is just a freaking idiot. Now, granted, let me say I have worked with a whole lot of walk-in engineers that were great, that were phenomenal. Most are great and phenomenal and easy to work with and know how to mix within the parameters of the system they're provided. But every now and then you got guys that got to push everything to freaking 13, you know? And they feel like they're validated by being loud. You know, and that never makes any sense to me, because you lose all kinds of fidelity when you mix with that mindset. I have some of my clients who openly ask me to not overdrive the rig because they want their band to be dynamic. And they're speaking my language, man, because that's how I mix. And I'm also the guy that they call when they need production because of that. You know, it doesn't have to be 120 dB, you know, in an area that really only needs about 95 or 100 dB, you know? Excuse me. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the world that we have to navigate. It's never fun. You know, it sucks to have to be the bad guy and stand there and say, look, man, you know, I had a situation with a guy who is typically 99% of the time, he is real easy to work with. He's a sweetheart of a guy. And he was full of apologies after the gig. But he came in and he dang near blew up my rig with the first downbeat. You know, he was using his mixer or using his scene on my mixer. He had a show file, and apparently he didn't have limiters patched, or I don't even to this day, I don't really 100% understand what was going on. But it was to a point where we were all grabbing faders trying to pull it down. It was, the show was a disaster. It just was. I mean, it didn't get right until like the last couple songs of the band's set. I felt sorry for the band. This guy's typically on it, but everybody has a bad night. I get that. I'd really prefer that you not have a bad night on my rig, though. And I was pissed. I was pissed. You know, I'm walking up to him with my iPad saying, hey, look, man, you got a lot of red lights going on here. You need to, he goes, I know, man, I'm working on it. Okay. Well, you know, you got like another minute, and then I'm going to start working on it, and it's not going to get pretty, okay, because this is complete bull butter. After the show, he came back. He had a humble heart, was full of apologies, told me what was going on. Like I said, I still really don't fully understand what all was going on, but I'm like, man, if you got to limit your mix that much, maybe you need to go back and really revisit gain structure and some of the basic fundamentals of your mix, because that is, he didn't have limiters inserted like he usually does. And I'm like, if you're mixing, he's mixing a blues band, you know, and it's like, if that music is so dynamic, and if you're mixing up against your limiters like that, I don't know. I'm not judging the guy, it just is what it is, man. But it was a scary situation there for about 10 seconds, you know, and that was a long 10 seconds. I was like, we're all grabbing faders and trying to, you know, do something with it. It was bad, dude. It was bad. Bad. You know, you can't, I mean, there's always going to be a tough guy in the comment section that says, I'll just shut it down. I'll, you know, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Well, when you've already been paid for the event, and the headliner is the guy that everyone came to see, you're in a very dynamic situation, and it's very delicate and fragile. And this was at an event that pays us well, and we have a very good reputation with these guys. But the band would have been way better off had they just let me mix them. No one is going to know their system better than the guy that owns it and put it together. I mean, how much longer do we have to work in this business before we understand that sort of stuff? And if you think you're going to, especially in a house situation where the rig sets and lives in the same room all the time, and you got a house guy that's mixing 150, 200 shows a year in that room, no one knows that room and that system better than the house guy. When I walk into those situations, I immediately recognize that and usually communicate that. Like, look, I know this is your rig, and I know no one knows it better than you. Help me find the sweet spot that is good for this room, and then I will mix within those boundaries and make what my band needs the best it can be. Why not be humble that way? But instead, and I'm tempted to say it's a lot of young guys that have this attitude, but I've worked with older cats too that have the same attitude. I had a guy show up one time, and within 10 seconds of me, he didn't say, hello, my name is, or any of that stuff. It was, hey, let me tell you how to use your mixer. Oh, like, really, dude? Like, I've been working this room for 5 years. I don't know how to use my mixer. I mean, really? This is what we're at? No, come here, man. Let me show you how to do this and show you how to do that. And I'm like, I don't need your help, man. I don't know what world you think you're living in, but that's not who I am. And whatever you're trying to show me are things that I have already worked out and know. So, I mean, it's not that I don't want to be teachable, but you have to understand the dynamics of the conversation. You know, he didn't like try to be gentle and say, hey, can I share some information that I know that you may or may not know? You might already know it, but hey, did you know this? You know, come to the table with a humble heart, and come to the table with a soft, you know, demeanor, instead of being, you know, Tommy know-it-all. Dude, you can take that business someplace else. I don't even care. You know, and that was one of the last times that guy ever mixed in that room because of that. Because I told the owners, I'm like, and I even told the band, because I knew the band. And I'm like, dude, this is completely unacceptable. So, yeah, so not a long video this week. That's just kind of where we are with everything. I hope it helped you. If you're not already, if you made it this far in the video, you need to be an insider. You need to be a member of this channel. Go and hit that join tab and become a Grumpy Sound Guy insider, and become someone who can get into the member-only content, and be someone who I will actually answer your message when you need help. When you need help buying gear, you need help working out your system issues, all that kind of stuff. I am reserving those services for paid members only moving forward. So if you have sent me a private message asking me to help you with something and got no reply, then maybe you should consider being a subscriber. I love you guys. I'll see you next week.